see the state way of college.
State way, John.
So wait, Your Honor.
Hope you had a good lunch. Yeah, there's a lot of nice things about this building. And one of those is the great windows that we have outside. Sometimes that can have negative consequences, being that you just saw all the snow coming down before you came in here. I don't think you have anything to worry about. I've been monitoring the weather this afternoon, and I'm getting text messages from people about town. If it looks like the roads are going to start getting bad, which I haven't promised they're not, I'll let you know and we'll end early. So please put the snow out of your mind. Don't worry about that. We'll take care of you. I can give you a ride home tonight. I'll give you a ride home, but we'll make sure you're getting home safely. All right, ready to resume the state's case. Jones, if you just try next please.
Call Stephanie Ogle.
Ms. Ogle, would you please come forward, take the witness stand? You please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony about to give in the case now on trial will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Help you God. Have a seat, Ms. Ogle.
Give us your name, please.
Stephanie Ogle.
Can you spell your last name, please?
O-G-L-E.
Where are you employed?
Knox County Criminal Court.
What do you do with the Knox County Criminal Court Clerk's Office?
I'm the office supervisor.
Now, what is the Knox County Criminal Clerk?
We are the keeper of the records for criminal court.
As such, like this case here that we're trying, is there a file on this case?
Yes.
And in front of you, do you recognize that as being one of the files from this case?
Yes.
And what all do you keep in those files?
We keep all the original filings. We keep motions, orders, subpoenas. Sometimes we'll even keep email exchanges between attorneys asking us to reset cases, things like that. Indictment, presentment.
So for the subpoenas, explain to us, how does the subpoena process work?
We issue subpoenas on cases typically 3 to 4 weeks before a setting, sometimes earlier if it's requested. Witnesses are listed on the indictment or presentment, and sometimes there's orders adding witnesses. Defense attorneys sometimes will give a list of subpoenas they need, and we issue those through our system. And
in that file, can you tell us whether or not an officer by the name of Brian Mason, whether or not a subpoena was issued for him? And to be fair, I've already put the sticky on it. I mean, it's fair to say that's a thick file.
It is, yes. Yes, I do show that a state subpoena was issued for Brian Mason on November 29th.
What year?
2017.
For this case?
Yes.
Also in that file, the discovery responses, are they in that file
Yes.
as well?
Mm-hmm.
Do you show whether or not the state of Tennessee provided to the defense, Mr. Bassett, a copy of a crime scene log from Green Hills?
I see that on October 20th, the state filed a supplemental discovery response. It says the description was an email and jail.
Well, it's an email from the
Officer Stevens.
Okay, and if you turn to the what is attached to that supplemental discovery response?
There's a CD right above it. I'm not sure if that goes with this motion or.
It says email from J. Stevens.
It says email from Officer Stevens. Yes.
And what was that date again?
That was filed on October 20th, 2017.
Passengers.
It's actually Mr. Rogers' turn.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Any cross-examination? Any questions? Mr. Murray, Justice.
Ms. Ogle, we know each other. We interact with each other on probably a day-in, day-out basis, maybe 4 days a week, correct?
Yes.
And your obligation is the keeper of the records as well as the members of the staff that you supervise, correct?
Correct.
The subpoena that the general asked you to look at, would you flip to that first, please? You have that in front of you?
Yes, I do.
Do you see the piece of paper directly on top of it? There's about 3 or 4 of them. They're blue, aren't they?
Yes.
And the piece of paper that has the subpoena for Officer Mason is what color?
This particular one is white.
When subpoenas are generally, as a matter of course, obtained from the Knox County Attorney General's office, what color are they?
We print subpoenas out in blue. However, if I could add
You can add anything you want. I'm not trying to restrict you. I just want to know.
Objection, if you can finish
Go ahead.
answering the question.
Oh, you can finish your answer.
the clerk who issues the subpoenas for Division 1, she and I share a copier. Actually, it's a copier that's used throughout the office. When she's printing subpoenas, she puts blue paper in. That copier is used by many, many people, and if she's got blue paper in it, somebody may use her blue paper and she may print out a white. We do like to keep them in blue because that sticks out in the file, the subpoena.
That tells you what's in the file to differentiate it from other documentation in the file, correct?
Correct.
Part of the standard operating procedure of the clerk's office.
Yes.
Okay. And so, also part of the standard operating procedure, you've already testified, is that subpoenas are usually issued 3 to 4 weeks in advance, right?
Yes.
Okay. And this one didn't even get requested till what day? I believe you said November 29th.
It was issued on the 29th. I distinctly remember the request coming in for this particular officer, and I think
Well, the date's on the subpoena, it actually says November 29th.
yes, it was issued on the 29th, yes.
Okay. Turn to the discovery response. The general asked you, and we're dealing with the crime scene log, or what she referred to. You see that discovery response?
The supplemental,
Yes, ma'am.
yes.
And it's dated, when I say dated, not the date that the lawyers wrote on it, but the date that the clerk's office sent it in.
Yes.
What date did the clerk's office enter it into and at what time?
It was state filed in her office on October 20th at 10:51 a.m.
Would you, starting with the first page that Ms. Fitzgerald put a yellow tab on, tell me the number of pages of that document?
Four.
Is there any email, tongue-tied. Is there any email attached to that document?
No.
Nothing further.
Ms. Lee,
No question, John.
redirect.
You know whether or not in,
Your Honor.
wait, I'm just asking a question. I'm asking a question. Do you know whether or not in this case that an order was filed so that the discovery was not to be made public to the media?
I do handle the undersell filings. I could not,
Sure.
without looking through my records, I could not accurately tell you if there were any filings filed under seal.
Whenever we file,
Your Honor, I'd object. She's trying to cross-examine her. She's got to ask her questions. Her witness.
I have not heard an objection question yet.
when we file discovery responses, how does that work? When we approach with the response that we are filing, do we get copies?
Typically, your office files 3 of anything. One for the clerk, one I think for your records. Actually, you just leave one for us and you take 2 back. So I'm not sure where those 2 go.
To approach and ask if this is if you recognize that as being a copy of that file.
It is filed, the one in the clerk's file is filed at 10:51 a.m. and this is filed at 10:52. So I imagine that, we've got typically 3 of everything, so we're normally 1, 2, 3. So this could have, would have very possibly been filed at the same time.
Can you tell us how many pages is that file? How many pages is that supplemental discovery response?
It's 4 in the file.
How many pages is our copy? You don't tell us, folks. It's also many pages.
The filing is 4.
4, and is there an attachment to the file?
There is.
Okay. And in the file?
I did not have that attachment.
Right. No, I was asking about this copy here. Is there a certificate of service?
Yes.
And what does the certificate of service say?
I hereby certify that I have delivered a true and exact copy of the attached and foregoing document was delivered to Scott Jones this the 20th day of October 2017.
And if you could turn back to page 2, where it says description. What does it say, the first line?
The email from Officer Stevens,
And under the column it says person in possession. What does it say?
copy attached.
That's all.
The last, I'm sorry, then they have a question. I figured this was my deal. That last 2 words that you said, what was it?
Copy attached.
Is there a copy attached
Not
to what you have?
Not to mine, no.
Explain to the members of the jury the physical proceeding when you file something under seal. If I bring a document and I advise you, Madam Clerk, pursuant to the court's instructions, I'm filing this under seal. How does that happen and what goes on?
We have a special filing, a special stamp for an under seal filing. It is stamped, filed under seal. They're filed at they can be filed at the front counter or can be brought directly to me. I put it in an envelope, stamped the seal date again on the outside of the envelope.
I'm sorry to interrupt your answer. The attorney, please approach. I'm sorry, so you can continue your answer.
Ms. Ogle, you were explaining about files under seal and how there is a special stamp that you and members of the clerk's office as custodians of the record stamp those documents. Does that one have that special stamp on it?
The supplemental discovery response, no, it does not.
Nothing further. Thank you.
Gentlemen.
Can you look in your file and see if you've got a copy of this order that is signed by His Honor, myself, and Mr. Jones?
I don't have an issue. I'll stipulate it.
Okay.
No issue whatsoever. You don't have to look at it. I'll stipulate it.
We can just take a copy if you want.
No issue. None whatsoever.
And this order, I guess this is going to be 585.
I think there's no objection to this leave. You already have a 585. We already
Oh,
have
we're not, I'm sorry.
What number would we go to?
586.
87.
587. And what is the order of
Order in this cause pursuant to Rule 16D upon agreement of the parties and for good cause shall be is hereby ordered as follows. The state will furnish copies of all discoverable items, including data disks that contain discoverable electronic recordings and other data to the attorney for the defendant. Neither the defendant nor his attorney shall allow anyone other than the defendant or his attorney's staff members or investigators to review the contents contained on the discoverable items without prior permission from the court.
And again, that record, the court file, that's a public record.
Yes.
And so anything that is in that file, that would be subject to public inspection.
Yes.
So if the discovery, in this case, had been attached to the supplemental discovery form, would that be available for public inspection? Would that be in violation of the court's rule?
I think that's the argument of,
Yes, sir.
that maybe you understood.
Yes. That's all. Thank you.
Yes.
Would you take another look at that order?
You're certainly not aware of any violation by me or any member of my staff relative to that order, are you?
No, I'm not aware of anyone's violation.
And you've already explained, there's a specific way of honoring that order with regards to filing stuff under seal, right?
Correct.
And that doesn't have that stamp on it, does it?
No.
Nothing further.
Mr. Chairman.
No.
Thank you, Ms. Owen, for stepping out. Free to go. Next witness.
Officer Stevens.
I'll take you anyway.
I'm sorry, Mayor.
None of this came in.
We're going to take the stand again.
Officer, go ahead and have a seat. Officer, you have previously been sworn in this case. You understand you're still under that oath? Yes. All right, then.
Here's your name, sir.
John Stevens.
And sir, you testified here yesterday.
Yes.
In this case, did you prepare a crime scene log at Green Hills?
Yes.
If I can approach and show you. This exhibit, do you recognize that exhibit?
Yes.
What is that exhibit?
There's the email that I'm seeing one that I emailed to the investigator.
What was the date and time?
The 18th of December at 6:30 in the morning.
Would you list, tell us about the list that's on that email?
It is an approximate time of every personnel's arrival on scene, starting with the time that I arrived till the crime scene that cleared the scene.
And what time did you arrive?
At approximately 2:05.
And who are the other officers that arrived? Yes, sir.
Investigator Thurman, Investigator Mark Taylor, myself, all arrived at the crime scene at the same time at approximately 2:05. Investigator John Holmes, Sergeant John Schaefer, Officer Nelson Hamilton, Sergeant Jason Chadwell, Lieutenant Brian Malone, Officer Dean Ray, and then a KFD unit showed up on scene at about approximately 2:15 with 4 firefighters: Buddy Gibson, Kevin Tipton, Justin Eagle, and 3 individuals from KFD, and then a rural metro unit. And at approximately 2:20, investigators Lane, investigators Cook, Investigator Willett, along with Sergeant Hill, arrived. The last few units from Patrol, Officer Tucker, Officer Vanessa Mays, Investigator Leffler, and then Crime Lab Taylor showed up.
And so yesterday, you recall ever being asked yesterday about a crime scene log?
Was I asked? I don't recall. No.
On direct or on cross, no one asked you about doing a crime scene log?
No.
We'd like to make this exhibit 588.
There you go.
Pass the list.
Gentlemen, you go first.
Now, Officer Stevens, you remember speaking to me yesterday, right?
Yes, sir.
Can I see number 588 this evening? This document is an email and dated, sent Thursday, June 15th, 2017 at 3:25 p.m., correct? Up here at the top. It says from John Stevens, or you J. Stevens at knoxville.tennessee.gov?
Yes.
Okay, I'm trying to orient myself. Sent Thursday, June 15th, 2017 at what time?
3:25 p.m.
Who'd you send it to?
Dictation.
Okay. Subject, Green Hills crime scene log.
Yes.
Okay.
It's a forward of the original.
Forward of an original email that you sent to Mr. Leffler, right?
Yes.
Okay. And it's fair to say that unlike other crime scene logs, you didn't manually write it down on a pad, right?
I did write it down on a scrap sheet of paper.
And you destroyed that then, right? Or where is it?
It did probably end up in the email that was bad somewhere, or it got thrown away maybe.
Would that not be the best evidence rather than a reconstruction that you made later in the day?
Probably not. I mean, I transcribed it immediately after I cleared the crime scene. It would have been verbatim what I had in my pad. I wouldn't have altered anything from that.
I'm not implying that you did, but there is an actual crime scene log, a handwritten one like we learned that supervisory personnel is supposed to be created somewhere.
Judge, Your Honor, the compound question.
Overruled out this time.
There's one somewhere, right? There is a document that corresponds to this somewhere besides this email that you sent to Ms. Fitzgerald in June of 2017. Right?
I assume so, yes.
You just don't know where it is.
Yes.
Are you talking about the original?
The handwritten notes that he said could have been destroyed, doesn't know. You don't know where they're at.
No, no.
So I don't have the ability to have the handwritten document to cross-examine you with, do
No, you said it.
I? And I'm not impugning your integrity. I'm saying the only document that I've got is basically what's contained in an email to Ms. Fitzgerald in June of 2017. Right?
It's an email from me to Investigator Leffler 2 hours after the crime scene.
And you forwarded it to Ms. Fitzgerald in June of 2017.
Yes.
So, even if argumentatively, you would agree with me, there have been 4 months would have passed between June of 2017 and October 27th of 2017, right?
Again, it's a copy of a forward that was made 2 hours after.
This is just calendar-wise.
Yeah, and the jury can figure that out as well, so you can't, that's move on.
There's no, when you talk about times, you're saying everybody got there at the same time, or are those approximations?
Approximations.
Okay. Do you know if your handwritten document had more accurate times, or you remember?
No, that would have been verbatim what my note said.
Nothing further.
Ms. Lee?
We're talking about which one?
The one that you, on exhibit 588.
sir, this was your list of the people that were at the crime scene, and that's the accurate list. So if Bethany Fine says she was there, she's not on this list, is she lying about being there?
No,
Okay, why isn't she on that list?
she, again, depends on what time that she came in or what time I left.
So then your list isn't correct?
It could be, could be complete at the time that I left the scene, which would have been the last time I was on there.
Okay, that's all I have.
Mr. Rod,
I think, Judge.
redirect.
Can we introduce your video, your complete video from the time of your arrival at Green Hills?
I think the jury, I think it's a.
We can watch it if we want to know who all entered.
It shows everybody that stepped on foot on that day time.
Thank you.
And that video only shows it from the perspective, as we learned yesterday, of where your car is pointed, correct?
Yes.
So if somebody's over here out of video range, you don't know who was there, but for what you've got recalled in this document, right?
That's correct.
And as my co-counsel aptly pointed out, evidence tech Fine is missing, as is evidence tech Taylor, correct?
Taylor's on there.
Okay, but Fine's not, is she?
I do not recall seeing Bethany.
What's the purpose of a crime scene log?
To ensure completeness and preserve evidence.
That one's not complete, is it?
To the best of my knowledge, it is.
That's fine.
It's me, sorry, yeah, let's see.
Nothing further.
Rod, redirect.
Yes, sir.
Hey, you also make that down, we're really good with that.
Thank you.
Next one.
Tom Walker.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony about to give in the case now on trial will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Have a seat, sir.
Give the jury your name, please.
Tom Short,
And by whom are you employed?
Knox County Sheriff's Office.
And in what capacity?
I'm a gang investigator.
How long have you been in law enforcement?
25 years.
Prior to being employed in law enforcement, what experience did you have as an adult, working adult?
I was in the Marine Corps from the age of 17, 4 years, did 4 years active and 4 years reserve. I did 5 years with Martin Marietta at White 12 as a SWAT team member. And then in 94, I joined law enforcement.
And what was your first law enforcement agency that you worked for?
Knoxville Police Department, and I'm a gang unit.
In the gang unit?
Yes.
And when did you come to work for the sheriff's office?
In 2002, so I could start their gang unit. I was a founding member of the gang unit for the Sheriff's Office.
So since 2002, you've been a gang investigator?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about your training in that field to become a gang investigator.
I got an associate's degree in criminal justice and then a bachelor's degree in criminal justice administration. I've been a member of the Tennessee Gang Investigators Association since 1999. This organization teaches gangs and gang identification and gang building of files to law enforcement agencies across the state of Tennessee. In 2006, I was appointed the state training coordinator for the Tennessee Gang Investigators Association, which means I organize the training for all Tennessee gang investigators throughout the state. I held that position until 2011. In 2011, I was elected Vice President of Tennessee Gang Investigators, and I still hold that job today. I'm a member of the Virginia Gang Investigators Association, the Mississippi Gang Investigators Association, and the Mid-Atlantic Gang Investigators Association, which is in the upper northeast of the United States. I've developed 12 classes for the state of Tennessee on gang identification and gang investigations for POST. POST stands for Police Officers Training and Standards Association or Committee. And what they do, they're a state organization that authorizes the training for all police officers and all corrections officers in the state of Tennessee.
So in order for us to get our mandatory 40 hours of extra training every year, it has to be what we call post-approved. In other words, the state has to approve it for extra training hours, and we have to do 40 hours every year. Developed 12 classes for this published to be taught to the police officers for this extra training. I've written 4 articles that were published. One was in the National Honor Society magazine when I was in college. It was called Street Gangs, a Subculture in the United States, and I was published in the Honor Society magazine. And then I've also published 3 articles in the Tennessee Gang Investigators Quarterly magazine about gang investigations, testimony, and trials. I've been a certified gang instructor for the state of Tennessee. With that, I've had to go to training. I have to go in a class and sit and listen to other gang investigators throughout the state and also through the federal government. I've sat through 555 hours of additional gang training where I've learned from other instructors. And then when I became a gang instructor, I started keeping track in 2006. And since 2006 through today, I've taught 494 classes on gang instruction for the state of Tennessee. I've taught over 23,000 students, and I've logged 3,027 hours as a gang instructor. The gang unit, like I said, I started the gang unit. I've been the primary gang investigator since 2006 is when we actually started the gang unit in Knox County Sheriff's Office.
And have you been qualified as an expert in gang investigations and trials?
If I'm qualified today, this will be the 29th trial in Knox County. I've testified as a gang expert. I've also done 3 federal trials, once in Anderson County, once in Athens.
At this time, we'd move to qualify Officer Walker as an expert in gang investigations.
Over previous objection, the court is going to recognize Investigator Walker as an expert in the area of gang investigations. I believe he is the first expert witness we've had, so I need to give you instruction on that. When the court recognizes a witness as an expert, that means that that witness is allowed to render their opinion within their area of expertise. Now, just because an expert witness has rendered their opinion, you are not bound to accept it. Just like every other witness, it's your job to judge the weight and credibility to be given his testimony, but he is considered an expert and is allowed to give his opinion.
And as a follow-up to that, it says, CV. You can go ahead.
I'm going to further hand you document that, you can tell us what it is.
This is an outline of my training from all the way from the Marine Corps to the present day. It's basically 5 typewritten pages long, single space of all the training that I've gone through since my ongoing 30 years of military and law enforcement experience.
We move to make that next number.
No objection.
589.
Probably not.
Yes, ma'am. Assuming you have it already put it somewhere.
Investigator Walker, tell us what a gang is. I'm sorry. Investigator Walker, tell us what a gang is, or I guess more specifically, a street gang.
Tennessee state law says that a definition of a street gang is defined as a TCA code, Tennessee Code Annotated, which are the laws that govern the state of Tennessee, is 40-35-121. And it says that a street gang is a formal, informal, ongoing organization, association, or group consisting of 3 or more people that has one of its primary activities the commission of criminal acts. And then it breaks it down into multiple categories that we have to prove that the individual has committed in order to be classified as a gang member. When we do a gang enhancement, which we will not be doing in this trial, I have to prove 2 of the 9 categories that the person has committed in order to be proved a gang member.
Now, tell us where street gangs got their origin, if you would.
Depends on which street gang you're talking about. There are literally thousands of different gangs across the United States. I think the last count through the FBI statistics is 29,000 different gangs and subsets in the United States. So it depends on the origins. Mostly they came out of Chicago back in the 60s and 70s. The Crips and the Bloods are the only major street gangs that did not start in Chicago. They started in Los Angeles, California.
Let's talk about the Crips and the Bloods. When did the Crips come on the scene?
The Crips came on in the early 70s, depending on which subset you're talking about. The earliest known Crip set was the Rolling 60s, and that was started by Stanley Tukey Williams back in the early 70s. And then Raymond Washington, who was a 50-year-old kid at that point, also started a Crip set. And it's an argument between the gangs who started first. So the best would be the early 1970s.
And what about the Bloods?
Bloods came after the Crips. They also started in the early 70s in Los Angeles, and they basically developed because they were in conflict with the Crips. So the gang members that started the Crip sets, the people that didn't like them started their own set called the Bloods, and that's how they got the different subsets from there.
Are you familiar with any musical artists or rap artists that are known gang members?
There are literally, I think, over 50 the last time I looked on the internet that claim gang membership that are gangster rappers.
Now, how does somebody go about becoming a member of a gang?
Again, there's multiple different ways depending on which gang you're talking about. The way we've been told in Knoxville, interviewing Knoxville gang members, this doesn't count LA and how they do it or anything else. In Knoxville, it's either a jump in or a beat in. This can be accomplished by the leader of the gang telling X amount of members that are already members of the gang to beat up a person that wants to join our gang. This number is ranged anywhere from 3 up to 10 people, depending on which gang we're talking about. And the person that wants to join the gang just has to stand there and just got to take it. Now, they'll beat on him for X amount of time. It can be anywhere from 13 seconds up to 3 minutes, depending on which gang you're talking about. Once the beat-in is accomplished, then that person is a member of the gang. And this is where you get the term blood in, blood out. They draw blood to get you into the gang. If you ever try and leave the gang, they'll draw blood to get you out of the gang. You family in. This is where a lot of the younger gang members, I'm chasing around third-generation gang members now in Knoxville. When I first started in '94, I was chasing around the older gang members that had just had kids. Now I'm chasing around their grandchildren. The family in means that the parents, either mom and dad or both, are members of the gang, and when they have their children, they're raised as the next generation of gang members, so they're just kind of family into the gang. You can do what's called testing or molesting. This is where you have to actually take a test. They will ask you questions. It's usually an oral exam. And to give you an example, to be a gangster disciple, there's over 100 different questions they can ask you. And they're obscure questions that nobody else would understand unless you study gangs or are actually in the gangs. But you have to take this, this oral exam. If you answer all the questions correctly, they deem you worthy enough to be part of the gang. If they don't, then it's a violation. They end up beating you up and throwing you out of the clubhouse. And that beat-in doesn't count as a beat-in. That's just one they get for free. There's committing criminal acts. This is usually the younger ones, 8, 9, 10-year-olds. They want them to commit a criminal act. They're going to videotape them doing this to try and blackmail them into staying in the gang. They're going to do drive-by shootings, some kind of carjacking, robbery, something of a major value to the gang, to bring in money and also bring reputation to the gang.
Now, do gangs, wherever they are, do they control certain territory within any particular area?
Yes.
And tell us how that works.
The bigger the gang, the more territory you control. The more territory you control, the more you can sell drugs in the areas. So the housing developments, those were the areas that the gangs mainly wanted to control back in the early 90s. The bigger the area you had, the more drugs you could sell, the more money you make as a gang. It then went into reputation of the gang. The bigger the gang got, the more they could control those smaller gangs. We had a bunch of drive-by shootings in the mid-90s. And that was, we only had 8 gangs at that point fighting for control over these areas. So they were literally trying to shoot each other off the block. Whoever won took control of that area. Today, in 2017, we have 31 different gangs fighting for control of different territories in Knoxville. Currently tracking 1,466 known gang members that I have in my files right now. That is not including the 900 or so what we call associates that have not made it to the level of what I consider to be a gang member yet. And then, of course, there's the ones that I just don't know about because I'm one person trying to keep track of them.
You mentioned, I guess, fighting over territory.
Yes.
Are retaliatory shootings part of that fight?
It is. It's part of the gang mentality. If somebody offends you in some way, comes into your territory, sets up your drug house, sells drugs in your area, commits a drive-by shooting in the area, it must be answered. It's a matter of reputation and honor. If they don't, they're seen as weak. So it's a matter of, you have one shooting, you're going to have another one.
Are there certain colors, signs, graffiti, those types of things that are associated with each particular gang that you study?
Yes.
And as far as Crips and Bloods, tell us about Crip colors and graffiti and that sort of thing.
Again, it depends on the individual set. Crips as a whole will usually wear blue. Bloods as a whole will usually wear red. But in Knoxville, we have different subsets, and depending on what part of town, they might wear different colors. So we have Crips that will wear a blue bandana or blue colors or blue clothes, tennis shoes, socks. We even have them going all the way down to their underwear. I mean, they wear everything blue. Same with Bloods. We've had them wear everything red. But we also have 52 Hoover Crips in Knoxville that wear UT orange. That is their gang color. So it doesn't have to be the red and blue. It can be whatever the gang in Knoxville decides the color they want to have for their particular gang.
And what about graffiti? Do you ever see gang graffiti around town?
Gang graffiti is prevalent, especially inside the jail. That's kind of why I wanted to come over to the sheriff's department. Is the jail is our #1 place for gang intelligence. We have them in custody. They get bored and they like drawing gang graffiti. It is a goldmine of intelligence coming out of the Knoxville area. Each gang has its own set of graffiti, uses their own symbols. We've had them go so far as make up their own alphabets using different symbols and then writing coded letters using their own alphabet.
What about the flashing of hand signs? How is that associated with gang activity?
It's to recognize other gang members, to say hi or bye, or just to recognize another gang member. They use gang hand signs, or to send an insult to another gang member through silent communication. It's kind of like the military, they have their own hand signs, for stop, go, stuff like that. The gang members use the same for the same reason. It's silent communication is what it is. It's to glorify the gang or to insult the rival gang.
Now, tell us about the Crips and Bloods here in Knox County. What does your investigation of those gangs in Knox County tell you about those gangs?
The Bloods and Crips, again, going back to the early 90s when we first started recognizing we had gangs in Knoxville. The dividing line for Knoxville for the gangs was 275 because it runs north and south. Everything east of there was considered blood territory. So we had the projects in the area with Walter P. Taylor, Austin Homes, Montgomery Village, Green Hills, the towers, all that kind of stuff, Townview Towers. Those were all considered blood, and then sometimes gangs from cyber territories. Everything west of there, Western Heights, Lonsdale, all those the solid developments west of 275 were considered Crip territory, and you had multiple different sets from there. As we started tearing down our housing developments and making them smaller, and some just totally disappeared over time, KCDC has moved these individuals to different housing developments, not knowing that they were gang affiliated. So now our gang problem is kind of just like a shotgun pattern. It's kind of going all over Knoxville because they moved these people all over the place. And again, race doesn't have a dog in this fight. We have just as many white gang members as we do African American or anything else. So it's more of the culture of gangs versus the racial makeup of Knoxville.
And you mentioned some of the housing development areas and so forth, where is it more prominent in those areas? That another way to say it. And are you telling us that everybody lives in those housing projects or are part of the gang?
Oh, absolutely not. No. There are people who live in developments that are just good people as anybody else you want to meet. They're just stuck in a bad situation. They're poor and they have nowhere else to go. They're victimized just as much as anybody else by the gang members in the projects. The gang members of Knoxville probably make up less than 1% of our total population of Knoxville.
Now, at our request, at law enforcement's request, have you had occasion to review some of the evidence in this case to determine whether or not it's gang related?
Yes.
Including certain photographs?
Yes.
Text messaging?
Yes.
Video in particular? You had an occasion to review a rap video?
Yes, sir.
That was taken off YouTube?
Yes, sir.
Judge, we'd like to play that, but we'd also like to aid the jury to provide a transcript of, and we've already provided that to
So folks, so what's going to happen, officer is going to hand to you a transcript. Now, this transcript is not evidence. I think I explained this to you the other day, but let me go through it again. The transcript is just something that was prepared by some administrative assistant who's listening to that, the health officer knows, but they are just typing what they think is being said. If there's something on this video that you hear differently, you're to go with your ears and not your eyes of what you're reading that transcript. You're not going to keep that transcript. Once this witness is through testifying, those transcripts are going to be collected and you will not be getting them back. So don't write it. If you want to write notes, put those only in your notebooks. Don't write anything on your transcript.
Now, can we approach?
Yeah. So we're not going to get the transcript out.
We are.
Well, I can do some more stuff while we're doing it, yeah.
I got it. We'll get back to that in a minute. You don't need to continue directly.
And let me pull up some pictures, if I can, Investigator Walker. Yeah, the screen. You want to on or you want to not? Can you see that, Investigator Walker?
Yes, sir. It says trees.
Exhibit 233 says what?
Trees.
Okay, and what does that mean in
Locally, actually, it's a slang term for treetop pyrus.
and treetop pyrus are what subset?
They're a subset of the bloods.
Of blood? Exhibit 234, can you?
Yes, it says, the top part on the left says Spruce, which is a Spruce Street in Knoxville, which is a typical hangout for the treetop pyrus. Right below it, it says TTP, which are the initials treetop pyrus. Right next to the TTP, you'll see a circle with it's a K in the middle of it, but it's a CK, and in the gang law stands for Crick Killer. Going over to the far right, it says West Side. West Side, it has two meanings in Knoxville. One, the west side of Knoxville, west of 275, is a territory controlled by the Crips. In treetop pyru history, it is the birthplace of the treetop pyrus on the west side of Los Angeles on 29th Street. So that's why they refer to West Side in their history, because that's their birthplace in Los Angeles.
And who is that, had the birth, which set is that? Is that
That's both the treetop pyrus and the Royal Bloods.
Oh, and blood, that's a blood set, right?
Yes.
Now, I ask you to assume that this photograph was taken on the east side.
Yes.
What significance with that information does this have?
Because the east side of Knoxville is traditionally a blood territory, they're just marking their territory, saying this belongs to us. And that's how gang members will signal to other gang members, this is our turf, our territory. It's the marked territory until other gang members not to come into our areas. The specific CK is telling the Crips, if you come into our territory, we're going to get it.
That exhibit 235, is that something you've already told us about?
Yes, that is the smaller version of the bigger picture you just showed.
Okay. And again, that's a little closer up of the
Yes,
right side of the
right side of the bigger picture.
239.
CK again, curricular. They post different signs around their territory, marking basically the boundaries of their area.
And I ask you to assume that there's been testimony that that sign is near the other signs that you've talked about.
Yeah, that would make sense. I mean, they're marking their territory, telling the Crips not to come into their area.
And just while we're waiting on the, that's the last picture. And you might tell us a little bit about the subsets of the Bloods and the subsets of the Crips as they exist here in Knox County.
As they exist in Knox County, we have just straight Bloods. We have East Side Bloods, Walter P. Pyrus, Treetop Pyrus, 400 block Treetop Pyrus, Rolling 20 Bloods, Rolling 40s. Depends on, which gang comes out of prison. If they were put in prison and they come out, they might try to restart a new subset. But for right now, those are what we have in Oxford. The Crips, multiple different sets. So we have West Side Crips, 5-2 Hoover Crips, Kitchen Crips, rolling 60s, rolling 40s, 111 neighborhood Crips, and the list can just go on depending on who comes out of prison and who goes in.
Now, how many, I believe you told us earlier the number of individuals you have identified as gang members here in Knox County?
As of this morning, 1,466.
Now, is that all the gang members in Knox County?
Absolutely not. Like I said, I'm one guy trying to kind of keep track of it.
Is there any way for you to know or identify all the gang members in Knox County?
No, not with the manpower we have.
And how are they, how is it you're able to identify them in the first place? What is it that brings somebody to your attention that you further investigate?
Usually it's through interviews, either city police officers make an arrest, and they have basically my counterpart is Jim Quick over at the city. If he comes in contact with a gang member in the city and they come to our jail, he'll notify me that we think this guy's a gang member and is coming to your jail. Can you monitor? And we, basically monitor them, see if they do any gang activity inside the jail. And then we feed that information back to the city, or they give us what they have, and then we put it together and see if it meets criteria by state law. If they meet criteria, then we make them a gang member in our files.
And you maintain a list of current active gang members, is that correct? And that's the number you told us about?
Yes, the 1,466.
Let me ask you about an expression, what's bracking? You ever heard of that?
Depends on which subset. Bloods, they use what's bracking. If you're a Crip, you use what's cracking. It just means what's up. It's a greeting as to what's going on or what's up. So if you're a Crip, you're going to use cracking. If you're a Blood, you're going to use bracking. It's just that C in the B name.
So if someone uttered what's bracking, what would that mean to you?
By itself, it's just terminology. If that's all I have, then I have nothing.
Okay.
It's a totality of all the circumstances. Does he have gang tattoos? Is he using gang graffiti? The term what's bracking would be a term that might be considered gang graffiti, but if that's all I got, I've got nothing. We have a very stringent code on what we say are gang members, and we don't vary from that. It's a two-pronged test on how we make gang members gang members. One, we have to follow the state law as a definition, and then we also use a number system, basically a checkoff system, and they have to meet both criteria. If they don't meet both criteria, they don't go on the gang list.
What about a question such as, what you banging?
What are you banging?
What are you banging?
It means what gang you're in, basically, what are you banging means what are you gang banging, what gang you belong to.
You mentioned tattoos. How are tattoos significant in investigation of gang members?
Tattoos have to be gang specific to the gang you think they belong to. So some will get the TTP, they'll get that tattooed on themselves. Or any of the symbols that the blood that gangs will use, which are covered under the People Nation. It could be anywhere from a 5-pointed star that's red, any color red tattoo. We might have a bandana, we've had them have a skull with a red bandana around the skull. They might have a full-blooded tattooed on their body, which means that they've been a blood gang member in the streets and also a gang member in prison. So they become full-blooded, they've been a gang member in both places. But any of the People Nation symbols that can be derived to specifically a gang or a subset of the Bloods, then we count that as a gang tattoo. Same with the Crips. They follow the Folk Nation, and they have different symbols. 6-pointed star instead of 5-pointed, 6-pointed crown instead of an odd number crown, 3, 5, or 7. They use a pitchfork instead of a cane. So it's just depending on which gang you're talking about. But we do not count tattoos in our interpretation of gang members unless it's specific to the gang they belong to.
Now, I believe you told us early on that the Crips and Bloods, when they started up out in California, didn't get along with each other?
No, that's why they formed. They were rivals. The Crips started first, and the other people that didn't want to be Crips or didn't like the people that were in the Crip gangs formed the Bloods in order to have somebody basically band together to fight them so they weren't an organized group.
And are they rivals to this day?
Oh, yes.
And do they engage in criminal activity against each other?
Yes.
And is that something you're familiar with?
That's why we've had more murders in Knoxville this year than any other time. It's mostly gang related.
I think we have the transcripts cleaned up.
All right, hand this off to cover.
doesn't. Oh, he's got it.
Okay. Yes.
That is fine.
And Investigator Walker, you've had an opportunity to see a video we're about to watch where you asked to determine if there's any gang-related activity, expression, so forth and so on, the things you've talked about contained within that video.
Yes, sir.
And the way we're going to do it, we're going to start playing it, and then we'll get to a certain point, maybe highlighted on your copy.
Yes.
We'll stop it and let you explain what that means to you. I'm sorry. Let me pull it up.
Joe, do you have an extra copy of that?
Yes. Yes.
I think we're all good now.
We dim the lights down, please. And Investigator Walker, if at any time you need me to stop to explain something, just, I guess, yell loud enough so I can hear you.
Okay.
Okay.
The term some 20, some 4, some 00, it's referring to the different subsets, gang or blood gang members in Knoxville. The rolling 20 bloods, we have rolling 40, and the 4 00s are the 400 block treetop fighters, which frequently disperse.
So if that says I'm 400, what does that?
It means he's a 400 block treetop fighter.
And the part there where it talks about you can't break the code, what does that mean?
Gang code, I mean, that's why they make up their own alphabets. It's to hide the communications from rival gang members and law enforcement.
And what does the red flag going to show suggest to you?
Red flag is like the red bandanas that are used by bloods and blood subsets. It's their gang code.
And I'm not sure if we stopped it before West Side 29th Street played or not. What does that mean?
That is in reference to the birthplace of the Bloods and the Rolling 20 Bloods and the Treetop Fires, which is the west side of LA on 29th Street. It's just an area of town of Compton over on the west side of town.
So you know, got some D's, got some trees, but I'm telling you, so you know that we out on go.
And what about them 20s? What I roll, got some D's, got some trees. But I'm 20, so you know.
Again, we're making reference to, in the song, they're claiming that he's a rolling 20s. That's what, you know, the shortened version is I'm a 20. It's a rolling 20 blood. D's are the 00s. So of course, in LA, you know, they have multiple different sets, but they have a 300 block, 400 block, 500 block, 600 block, 800 block, and 900 block treetop fighters. So depending on which block range, depends on which subset of gang that we're talking about. We have the 400. Not that we have a 400 block in Knoxville, it's just the name they chose, or the subset they chose to follow. And then, but I'm 20, don't you know, he's claiming rolling 20 bloods. Rolling 20 Bloods and Treetop Fighters, because they're from the same part of Los Angeles, the birthplace, Even though there are different subsets, they will cooperate when they're at war with another gang. They're more considered an ally, even though they're separate gangs.
And so this is a person performing that or singing that or whatever you call it, right?
Yes.
Making these statements.
Yes.
And what about, I'm not sure if you skipped over the trees part of this.
Trees is, again, a reference to treetop pirates. It's a shortened slang term for treetop pirates.
Okay.
It's an outlet and on for he just puts slow nose. On for 60s, 40s, when I live in May, all I know.
I got 60s, 40s, 111, they all got to go. What does that mean?
That's, again, a reference to the Knoxville Crip sets, the rolling 60 Crips, rolling 40 Crips, the 111 neighborhood Crips. They're all located on the west side of 275, and they are their rivals. So they're at war with them, basically, and they got to go.
And we all gon' go, and we all 10 toes to the sky. And I know some niggas gon' ride, but first I'ma call my girl, we can slide. Deal with the riggers and I will be on God. Try to get good, ain't no survive. I'ma pop out, yeah, we all gon' ride. Hey, since me and my bros, some 20, some 4, and 4 below. But it's all alone, we all know we ain't break the code. For creation, we'll get us down, niggas don't know. We all don't know, this is me and my bros. Some 20, some 4, but I'm full of the law. But it's all love, we all know you can't break the law. For the community, boys stand on niggas don't know. Cause we all don't know, me and my bros. Some 20, some 4, but I'm full of the law. But it's all love, we all know you can't break the law. For the community, boys stand on niggas don't know. Cause we all don't know, it's just me and my bros. Some 20, some 4, but I'm full of the law. But it's all love, we all know you can't break the law. For the community, boys stand on niggas don't know. Cause we all don't know, we pulling up and hopping out, everybody got a phone.
What does everybody got a pole mean?
It's a slang term in the rap music industry for gun. The pole refers to the barrel of the gun, it looks like a pole. In their song here, they're pulling up and hopping out means that they're driving around the territory, they have their guns and they're jumping out to take care of their business things.
I see I see 20 shots, niggas put it up low. That's me the way to stay down, but she don't get
The reference to Smith & Wesson?
Smith & Wesson is a brand name of a handgun, typically. It's one of our bigger handgun manufacturers. And when he's saying, you see your eyes said 20 shots, in other words, you're shooting 20 times at a rival gang member. They got to duck low in order not to get hit. The Smith & Wesson stay on me means he's always packing a gun, which is a typical gang thing. They always have a gun on. They already know that he carries a gun, so he has a reputation of carrying a weapon.
I'm always in the field, always on the phone. Pull up, pop out, everybody get me out of here, I'm gonna get some more.
What do we?
Again, referring, I'm always in the field means I'm always out. I'm not inside the house, I'm always out doing gang stuff. Got to pop out means I'm shooting. I'm going to pop out of the car and I'm going to pop with my gun going off. Everybody get down if you don't want to get smoked means you better get out of the way if you don't want to get killed. And then,
I'll play with it.
Yeah,
I can stop it there.
I say shit real life, we ain't playing no games, small like no joke. One from east side, just smoke, shit, ain't go. It ain't no,
Okay.
All right, this is where it gets very intimate from Knoxville. He's talking about specific subsets of gangs in Knoxville. But he's not doing random gangs, he's doing very specific gangs. The 60s, the 40s, 111s, the 20s, the 40s, the double O's. He's very intimate with the knowledge of gangs in Knoxville and the areas that divide. When he's talking about, and I apologize for the language, because this shit's real life, I ain't playing no games, means he's taking his gang membership very seriously. He's telling them, this is my life and I take it very seriously. My life's no joke. Where I'm from, east side, is the division of Knoxville. east of 275 blood territory. Gun zone is a specific term for Knoxville's east side. It was actually, that term was made by the news in Knoxville. It's not used anywhere else in the United States as far as I know. It was a term made by the press in Knoxville to describe, that's where we had most of our drive-by shootings in the early 90s, and that's been known as the gun zone ever since then. So Magnolia Avenue, MLK, all the housing developments on the east side of town.
Okay, I was going to, I was going to continue, yeah. What are the references there?
My trigger figures somebody in the crowd who want to go. In other words, somebody in the crowd is going to die. They're going to go. They're going to go away. Give a fuck with another nigger bangs. In other words, I don't care what other gang they belong to. If you're a rival, you're my rival. Pop in a neighborhood every day, pop out a nigger when it's broad daylight means he's not afraid to go into another area or another rival territory and shoot a rival gang member, is basically what you're saying. When you bust up on my block, it means when you, in other words, you come into my territory to shoot at me or something, that there's going to be rival action at that point. You better not send all the bullets our way because we'll line you up. In other words, we're going to line you up and we'll shoot you execution style in retaliation. So it's a very intimate song of Knoxville gangs, Knoxville territories, and even using Knoxville terms when they developed the song and then sung it.
I think just a little bit more of it.
Purchase your tracks today.
If I could prepare a separate late file exhibit with that very video, because I think that's the one he watched. The audio may have been a little cleaner, and I just want to make that a separate. Now, when you watched the video, did you see gang signs, tattoos, colors, those sorts of things that you told us about?
As you saw, there was red. They're wearing red bandana. One had a ball cap with a big capital red V on it. They'll use sports teams. They have their specific symbols and their specific colors, and they'll just adopt that as their gang clothing. East side, you'll see them, and my fingers don't work as well as they used to. That's east side. It's the E. You'll see them throw up 4s, 2s, depending on which gang they belong. 20s, 40s. They'll make different things. Trees. You can see them do this sometimes, or some of them can do it, I can't, but they can put 2 fingers up and make it look like a P for treetop fires. They'll do different hand signs like that. And those are what I saw in the video.
And did you see all of those that you
yes,
tried to
those
demonstrate?
specific ones I saw in the video.
And were you, by chance, able to recognize the location where that video was shot?
It's one of our housing developments in Knoxville.
Were you able to recognize that from watching the video?
Yes.
Best you could tell?
Yeah.
And our video, do you examine videos such as that as part of your investigation into gangs to determine whether or not it's gang related?
Yes.
Is that something you utilize regularly?
It's again, the totality of the situation. If all I have is the rap video, it indicates gang affiliation or gang membership. Until they meet the definition of the state of Tennessee, if that's all I got, I've got nothing. But when they do real life crime, that meets our criteria. They committed a criminal act as a group. Now we can use that as an identification process for gang members.
Let me ask you about some specific names, whether or not they showed up on your gang list. Christopher Bassett?
No, we did not have that.
Tipton Tolbert?
No.
Richard Williams?
No.
Larry North?
No.
Daryl Sly?
No. Well, I have to look at that. I'm a son later from there.
You have your list with you?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. If I may approach with a document that Jim's, I think you can speak to that.
Yeah, we got almost 1,500 people. I can't remember. That one sounds familiar.
And let me ask you, if when you got deemed that the gang affiliated, are entries made into the Knox County information system?
Yeah, Justice Information System. It's a computer program we use to track everybody that's been arrested in Knox.
Okay.
If they have a special designation, they're suicidal or they're part of a gang, then we notate that in that system.
And that would come from your list, is that correct?
That's correct.
So if you designate someone a gang member, it should show up in our system as what you thought.
Yes.
Correct. I can send you the paper and tell us who that person's information is.
Yeah. Daryl Sly, we have confirmed him, and I believe the Tennessee Department of Corrections also confirmed him as a rolling 21.
Roll 20 blood?
Yes.
Like this is collective exhibit. And I apologize, I didn't show their full person information from the names I read out. The person information from Jim's.
The other three? Is that
All
what
four,
you're talking
the other
about?
four, yeah. All five.
Okay, well, that's what I was doing, I was trying to think.
I'm sorry, Larry, no one tipped it over.
Are you wanting to put them all in?
Yeah, I'll just fill in our names. I've seen yours.
Yeah, no, I don't object to that, I don't think I submitted it.
I didn't think you did.
590.
Yes.
Without objection, please stick 590.
And I don't know if we have to ask to move the transcript Friday on.
Yeah, we'll make it ID only to the
To the late file exhibit, which will be
591.
591.
That copy will be 591. We'll make 591A the transcript, but it'll be for, or you say 591?
So the
transcript was 581 for ID.
581.
Okay, I'm orienting myself because I had 581, that's why I was.
That's ID only, Ms. Butler.
What was given to the jury, right, to look at?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's ID only.
It's been,
And I know it's not my turn, but can we have them hold that till I get my turn, so we don't have to hand it back out?
They get to keep it until he leaves the stand.
Yeah, okay, that's cool. Sorry. Thank you, Your Honor. I didn't mean to say that to school. Sorry.
This would be single. This is a single.
if I may approach with exhibit 553.
You looked at the end, didn't you?
That's already been introduced to Larry.
Yeah, I don't have a problem.
Okay.
Do you have that on your computer?
You brought that in through Larry North.
I'm approaching.
Yes, sir.
553, I'm on that.
have you had occasion to look at what's been marked as Exhibit 553?
Yes, it's a text message chain.
And ask you to, starting at the top, the letter there, RU, what does that signify to you?
No, Scott, there's RU up here, and it's basically a short term for pirate. The last two letters are root. So some of the gang members will actually use Rue in their name, like Rue Poppin', Rue Tree, stuff like that. But it's just a reference to the name pirate.
And reading through some of these text messages, are you able to recognize any particular language structure?
Yeah, the first message down, boys out here tell me when to come out. You'll see that they misspelled the word come. It should be C-O-M-E, and they spelled it with a K. The reason blood gang members will do that is to show disrespect to the Crips, because the name of their gang starts with a C, so they will not use C in any word. They'll replace it with a K or just leave it out totally.
And on down is the next text have anything out of ordinary?
Text can say if you're all straight. In other words, if you're ready. If they make a reference to, are you straight? Are you ready to go? Are you good with what's going to happen? Is that terminology.
And the next text being what?
We straight. I'm about to come, and again, spelled with a K. Get the heat. In other words, get a gun. Heat is a gun.
And the next one, have anything?
It basically says, tell me when to bum out, B-U-M. It's just a short term for come, and also use it as a derogatory term for another rival gang member. They're a bum. So again, he's not using the letter C. He's substituting an entire word to me. I'm ready to bum out. I'm ready to come out. And he's using it as an insult to rival gang, and also not using the letter C as an insult.
And the last, LGHT.
It's just a short term for right. Okay, I'm ready to go.
It is LGHT.
Yeah.
Okay. The video that we heard, and you've broken down for us, if you will, would that be classified as like a blood song or a Crip song, or
Definitely a blood song.
A blood song?
Yes.
Prepared by blood?
Blood, yeah.
Well, yeah, I'd object to that. Prepared by, come on.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
It's the same.
Now, just because, and you talked about the information you had in your list, and that these names read out to you, 4 of them were not gang members in your system,
Right.
And 1 was. Just because they're not on your
I
list.
object to the leading. He can ask him who, what, when, where, how.
That was
His witness.
little leading. I know you're just trying to get to the point, but that's.
If they're not on your list, does that mean they're not a gang member?
No, like I said, I'm one officer. I have 5 responsibilities that I perform at Knox County Sheriff's Office. Gang identification is one of them. I have 4 other responsibilities I'm also done for. I'm one guy trying to keep track of them all. So do I think I'm good enough to know every gang member in Knoxville? No way.
Task witness.
I'm sorry, Ms. Lee, you can go first.
Good afternoon, Mr. Walker.
Yes.
When you say there's 31 gangs in Knoxville, is that including the subsets?
Yes.
Okay. And you said a total of 1,466 gang members?
Yes.
Okay. And how many of those are white?
I don't have exact numbers, but it's like 48%.
48%?
Yes.
And how many are black?
I think it's 49% and 2% Hispanic and other. Those aren't hard numbers. I'm doing a general estimate.
Okay. And you said before somebody could be considered a gang member, there was a stringent state law?
Yes, the Tennessee Code annotated 4035-121.
Okay,
Is the definition of gang.
Okay. Can you read that?
Sure. Criminal gang offense enhancement punishment procedure use in this section unless extended otherwise requires a definition of gang. Criminal gang means a formal, informal, ongoing organization, association, or group consisting of 3 or more persons that has one of its activities, the commission of criminal acts, and 2 or more members who individually or collectively engage in or have engaged in a pattern of criminal activity. A gang member is a person who is a member of a criminal gang as defined in subsection 1-A, subsection 1, who meets 2 or more of the following criteria. A, admits to a criminal gang involvement, identifies as a gang member by a parent or guardian, is identified as a gang member by a documented, reliable informant, resides or frequents in a particular gang area, adopts their style of dress, uses their hand signs, their tattoos, and associates with criminal gang members. Those would be confirmed gang members.
Okay.
Is identified as a criminal gang member by an informant of previously untested reliability, and the information is coordinated by independent information. In other words, if the guy's not been a prior informant, if he gives information, I still have to check it out and make sure it's valid before I would use that.
Okay.
Has been arrested more than once in the company of identified gang members for the offense that are consistent with the usual gang activity, or is defined as a gang member by physical evidence such as photographs and other documentation. Gang offense means a violation of Tennessee law, and then it goes into all the different crimes you can commit.
Okay.
Considered gang.
Okay, so you said there's a code that you have to adhere to, and you have criteria to put somebody considered in a gang, correct?
Yeah, I have to follow this
Okay.
criteria specifically, and then we have a secondary system we use, which is the number checkout system.
Okay. And you don't have any criminal file for Kipling Colbert?
No, I do not.
Okay. And do you know who wrote the song? Or the video?
No,
Do you know
I
who?
don't.
So you don't know who wrote that?
No, I have no problem on that.
Okay. And do you know how many videos that these young men made?
Total,
How many have you viewed?
I have no idea how many total.
Okay, how many have you viewed?
6.
6 videos?
Yeah.
Okay, would it surprise you that they only made 3?
Well, they show up in others. I mean, they have their label,
Okay.
has 6 videos on it.
Okay, have you Googled the LIE?
Yes,
Okay. And there's a lot of things that come up for LIE, isn't there?
sure.
Okay. More than just these gentlemen?
Yes.
Okay. And when is the first time that you viewed that video?
A month ago, maybe a little longer.
That's the first time you saw that video?
Yes.
And when is the first time that you had knowledge of that video?
When the DA showed it to me,
A month ago?
yeah, I think it was a month ago, right around there.
Okay, and you've said you've testified in 29 trials in Knox County?
Yes,
Okay. And the people that you testified against, did they have gang files?
yes,
Okay. So you've not testified against anybody that didn't have a gang file?
just this case.
Just this case? Okay. And what training have you received on rap videos?
Rap videos specifically? as far as
Specifically.
Content? None.
No. And would you consider it dangerous to live in some of these neighborhoods?
Depends. If you're a gang member, it's more dangerous because you have other gang members specifically looking for you.
Okay. So it wouldn't be dangerous just living in those neighborhoods?
Not really. Gang members tend to prey on other gang members.
Gang members prey on only gang members?
Tend to, I didn't say only.
Okay. So would you say all the murders that's happened in Knox County are due to Bloods and Crips this year?
I said gangs, not just Bloods and Crips. We have 31 different gangs. We've had
Okay.
other gangs in this year.
So this year, all the murders were responsible by gang
I
members?
said most. Most
Okay.
gangs.
You know the
Most
number?
murders.
Do you know the number?
No, I don't have ours.
If there were murders that were affiliated with gang members, would you be working on that case?
No, usually it's the detectives that work it. I come in just when there's a gang issue.
Okay. And the video, did you see any weapons in this video?
No.
So you haven't had any training on rap music?
What is your
Okay,
context?
so what is your experience with rap music? Just, what is your experience with rap music?
I can listen to it and pick out gang terms and gang hand signs and gang colors.
Okay.
If you're talking about the production of rap music, I have absolutely not.
Okay. So just other than picking out gang terms, you don't have any experience? You haven't,
Specifically what I guess I'm on.
are you qualified to talk about rap videos?
In what context?
To testify somebody's in a gang because they made a rap video?
I guess I'm specifically trained to pick out gang terms and whether or not the song is about gang affiliation in a certain area.
Okay.
So yeah, I would say I'm highly qualified in that.
And who qualified you?
The judge,
Okay, he qualified you to talk about rap videos?
he sure did in this trial, yes.
I think you were qualified to talk about being a gang expert.
Gang expert, which the terms used in the rap video were gang affiliated.
Okay. But these men don't have a gang file.
Like I said, I'm one person trying to keep track. They slip through the cracks, yeah. It happens.
Yeah, I object to that characterization. That's guilty. That's not responsive to the question. Saying they slipped through the cracks is giving an opinion.
I'm going to overrule the objection. Keep going.
So you don't know who the author of the song is?
Objection asked and answered.
It's the same.
Okay. And how did you get the transcript of this song?
Transcript is supplied to me by the DA's office.
So the DA gave you the transcript?
Yeah. I mean, I listened to it, but I'm not the one that typed it out.
Okay. So did you compare the video to the transcript the DA gave you?
Yes.
Okay. And you could make out all the words in the song?
I had to go back several times and listen to it because, you know, it's not my favorite type of music. But yeah, once I went back and replayed it and went line by line, yeah, it's a very accurate transcription, I think.
And you only testify on behalf of the government, correct?
I have to on a law enforcement.
Right. So the transcript that the government gave you, the DA's office, you didn't have any reason to doubt that that was correct?
They sent it to me and asked me to listen to the video and compare the transcript to the video. So by my listening to it multiple times, line by line, my opinion is it's a very accurate transcript.
And you said you viewed this video the first time a month ago?
Yes.
And was that because the DA's office supplied it to you?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I have, Your Honor.
Good afternoon. As you said, everyone that lives in these neighborhoods are not gang members, right?
Oh, absolutely not.
And but they control certain sectors of town, or they try to market so that to show that that's their territory, correct?
They mark to show other gang members that they claim to control.
And do you think that most of the people that live in the neighborhoods are aware that there's gang activity in those neighborhoods? And as you said, the good people that live in those neighborhoods they don't want the gangs there either, is that right?
No, absolutely not.
But it's prevalent, and so is it fair to say that there are folks that live in neighborhoods who know gang members but they're not necessarily in a gang? that maybe they have friends or family that are gang members, but they're not, this doesn't necessarily mean that they're in a gang.
I don't know what other people think. I can only go by the criteria I use to classify people as gang members.
And you can't say that everyone that raps about gang material, or whatever, is in a gang. You couldn't testify to that,
No.
right? And just to confirm, there's no file on Richard Williams as being a member of a gang.
No, as I stated before, I'm one guy trying to keep track of all the gangs in Knoxville, and I do it on a part-time basis.
Thank you.
Actually, you have the resources of the entire Knox County Sheriff's Department, the detention officers, and Jim Quick and his crew over at KPD, because you have a system in which you give each other heads up if somebody's a gang member, don't you?
Yeah, it's all part-time.
I gotcha. But if I'm a patrol officer, if I'm, say, Officer Mason, or I'm Lieutenant Malone, and I give you, the gang man, a heads up, there's a notation made, right?
If I have time, yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, certainly you don't just disregard information, do you, from qualified law enforcement officers that are post-certified?
No, but I have to rely on them to get it to me. Sometimes it doesn't happen.
Sometimes they don't do their job, right?
Sometimes.
And occasionally, I guess, evidently, you don't do your job, is what you're saying.
And like I said, I'm one guy trying to keep track of all the gangs in Knoxville part-time.
Okay. And you said that you were originally at the city, is that correct?
Correct.
All right. And that you had a number of years of law enforcement experience at the city of Knoxville, correct?
8 years, 8 months.
And your compatriot, or the party that you deal with relative to gang issues over at the city of Knoxville, is a gentleman by the name of Jim Quick, right?
Correct.
Okay. And you have a exchange of information that occurs on a fairly regular basis?
When he's allowed to do gang stuff, he's part-time also.
Okay. And you said that when you came over to the county, one of the reasons that you did so, and I'm sorry, let me strike that. Let me lay a little foundation. When you were over at the city, were you involved in the gang business as far as research and getting information?
Yes.
And when did your involvement in that research and gang information commence at the city?
Probably in 1996 is when I started.
And prior to that, you worked in an ordinary patrol capacity,
Correct.
a detective capacity. Just tell the members of the jury a little bit about what you did.
I started out in patrol. I ran a beat in the Walter B. Taylor Housing Development. I also ran a beat over in the UT area. I went into, promoted over into Detective Bureau, and then I went to the Organized Crime Unit, where I got an Officer of the Year for an investigation over there. I was also involved in the Vice Lord case, which in the late 90s wound up being a 3-year federal investigation where we took down the top 28 Vice Lords in Knoxville, who got multiple life sentences with several people. I think we seized over $8.6 million worth of assets that went into the Knoxville coffers after that. At that point, I was promoted to field sergeant, and I went into the East District as a field supervisor.
And after that, you left your employment at KPD
Yep.
and came over to the Sheriff's Department, correct? And I believe the descriptor you used relative to coming over to the Sheriff's Department was there was a wealth of information contained within the jail system, correct?
Correct.
You referred to graffiti. Graffiti on the walls in the jail, exchange of notes from one inmate to another in the jail, correct?
Absolutely.
If there was a document written, then you, as a gang expert, can interpret that document if it is in, shall we say, gang parlance that you understand, correct?
Yes.
And if not, you can rely upon other similarly situated gang experts, Investigator Quick, for example, or other resources that we can look at on your resume to give you information as to what this gang lingo means, right?
Yes.
It was an exciting time because you were able to gather all of this information, including examining all of this graffiti, correct?
Sure. Yeah.
And also, you talked about these signs and the interpretation, and I don't know that my fingers can do things as far as, I guess, pitchforks down, pitchforks up. Those all have meanings in the gang world, correct?
Correct.
All right. And so if you have, shall we say, video information available to you in the jail, you can see whether people, have you ever heard the term busting signs?
Sure.
Okay, what does that mean for the jury?
Busting signs means that they're, it's called stacking also, is they'll do multiple gang hand signs and they'll do them in a rapid succession.
Okay, and you're aware, of course, the Knox County Detention Facility has video monitoring throughout the whole facility, correct?
Oh, hundreds of cameras, yeah.
Right. And while you are one man, would you agree with me that the Attorney General's office, Investigator Leffler, everybody's taking this case very seriously, right?
They take any murder case seriously.
I got you, but this one, this is a biggie, isn't it?
Any murder?
No, I'm talking about this one. This particular case, there's a lot of pressure in there.
No more than any other murder case I know.
Well, it's the only one that you've ever been brought in on in which none of the gentlemen sitting over here, and really the guy that I'm interested in, Mr. Bassett, doesn't have a gang file, does he?
Yeah, like I said.
1 out of 29, right?
1 out of 29.
You said you testified 28. Is this the 29th time?
This is 29, yeah.
Okay, so that would be 1 time out of 29. I mean, that's, what, 3%? I mean, that's down there percentage-wise, isn't it?
Yeah, like I said, I didn't work the case. I was called in by the DA's office to examine the gang material that was presented. I didn't have them on my radar. I apologize for that. Like I said, I'm one guy trying to keep track on a part-time basis.
Do you remember that I issued a subpoena relative to this matter to you, a subpoena deuce tecum?
Yes, sir, I got it right here.
And of course, you've now distinguished relative to that you can't declare somebody a gang member just by gang tattoos, right?
No, there's criteria you have to go through. They have to meet at least 2 standards about the definition.
Is John 3:16 a gang tattoo, sir?
No, that's a religious tattoo.
What about the term God, G-O-D?
I had a Hispanic gang that went by G-God.
Okay. A lot of black guys running around with God on them?
Not that I've seen, no.
Okay. And the document that I subpoenaed and asked you to bring to court, is that the same document that we've already filed? The general filed something that had whether or not they were gang affiliated.
I didn't look at it, but I think so. It's the same, it came from the same system.
Okay, I don't want to refile the same thing. Can I look at those? Do you mind, Ms. Michael?
I don't know.
Would you want to compare it to the one given?
Yes, sir, please. I just want to look at that. Now, you received a blue subpoena from my office.
Sorry, yes.
Okay, I'm not squalling about that. And it's what's called a subpoena deuce tecum, which, in your experience as a law enforcement officer, is a directive for you to bring an item with you, correct?
Correct.
And the item that I requested you to bring is, and you've got a copy attached, but would you agree with me that it is similar to the person information sheet that the general has now filed as an exhibit?
Yes, it looks the same thing.
Okay. And there are no gang tattoos in that exhibit as far as listed on Christopher Jerome Bassett.
No, like I said, tattoos aren't the only criteria we use.
And now, the language thing, and we're going to get into the video relative to the what's bracking, what's cracking, okay? We talked about the disrespect as far as using various words, right?
Sure.
So that if someone is in a blood sect, they say, what's bracking?
Sure, yes, sir.
Okay. And if someone's in a crip sect, they say cracking, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You don't know of, now I'm not talking about the other folks, my client, Christopher Jerome Bassett, using that language, do you?
Other than the video, no.
Okay. Now, you said other than in the video. I've got this transcript. Do you have a copy of what was prepared?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, were you asking if he was bracketing and cracking in the video?
Yeah.
Oh, no, not in the video.
Okay, you said other than in the video. And I'm not trying to pin you down.
Yeah, no.
My man don't say that, does he?
No,
Okay, that's what I'm saying.
sorry.
I got it.
Yeah. No, I was going on what.
Okay, so
Sorry.
my man don't say those words, and you talked about this transcript being prepared, and then they also showed you some text messages, correct?
Yes. English language, so that people can understand it.
But you're the
How can you tell how somebody spells a word when they're saying it or speaking or singing it?
But you're the gang expert,
Yes.
and it's your responsibility to correct this young lady at the Attorney General's office and say, no ma'am, if we're talking a particular sect, we're supposed to use the right letter. We're supposed to use the K instead of the C.
That's kind of a long way from accurate. I mean, sure, I can say, yeah, you don't need to use the C's in this transcript, but it's for the jury to try and understand what you're saying. It's basic human language.
So we can distinguish it in text messages, but we're not going to distinguish it in transcripts that we type up for the
The
jury.
court has ruled that the transcript is not in evidence, so they can't consider that because it's not in evidence.
The reason I was making the point, I think it's been made, was because he's the expert and he asked him if he looked at it, and I'll move on. That's fine.
He's an expert on gangs, he's not an expert gang member who's going to write it.
Have you ever heard of Folk Nation or People Nation?
Yes.
What are they?
Folk Nation is basically an organization that is in the scheme of a pyramid, I guess would be the best way to say it. Folk Nation is the top. The gangs that fall under Folk Nation would be Gangster Cycles and Crips. And then underneath their pyramids or their umbrellas would be their subsets. So the Rolling 60 Crips would fall under the Folk Nation, under Crips, subset. So it's kind of a pyramid angle as far as organization. People Nation would be Bloods, Pyrus, Latin Kings, Vice Lords, and then the subsets thereof. The Treetop Pirates would be the 400 block Treetop Pirates, or the Skyline Pirates, or what have you. Bloods would be, you would have the Blood Gang, and then you have Rolling 20s, Rolling 40s, West Side or East Side Bloods, whatever subset you have in your community.
And relative to the colors, you testified that Bloods are generally red.
Yes, generally.
Right, I got you.
Okay.
And that Crips are generally blue.
Yes.
And you also testified that with KCDC moving housing projects around, that we don't have that same dividing line of 275 anymore, do we?
Not what I would consider stable gang territories, no. In the early 90s we did. As our dynamics of Knoxville have changed, the housing has changed, College Homes was torn down, Western Heights used to be one of the largest housing developments, had over 5,000 units. It has been reduced to, I think, only 1,200 units now. Walter P. Taylor's been mostly torn down. It's, our dynamics, people are getting moved out of certain areas which were traditionally their gang territories, and they're being moved to other parts of town, which is spreading our gangs to where we don't have divided lines anymore. We have more of a shotgun pattern.
Right. And were you apprised relative to the graffiti that you were asked about, as far as you'll recall the TTP graffiti, the Keg Thing graffiti, the other stuff, as to where that graffiti was located, or did you personally go out there and look at it?
No, the DA's office showed me the pictures and asked me to determine what the graffiti was.
Okay. And if I submit to you that based upon what proofs already come in, and you're an expert, you get to, if you will, consider it, even though you didn't see it, that graffiti was around the house of Brandon Perry, a deceased individual, that doesn't indicate anything about Christopher Jerome Bassett, does it?
No, just marks territory that's controlled by the Treetop Pirates.
Kind of like a dog kicking the leg up and marking the territory, right? I mean, it's a simplistic example, right?
Yeah, that's what you want to say, yeah.
Okay. Did you have occasion to travel out to the home of Christopher Jerome Bassett and look around the curtilage, we learned that word, of Christopher Drone Bassett and see whether or not there was any graffiti there?
No, sir.
All right. And as an expert, certainly, knowing that you're going to testify at this trial, you would have had the ability to do so, correct?
That's not what I was asked to testify about.
I didn't ask that. You would have had the ability to do so.
Yes.
All right? And likewise, you talked about how when folks are in jail for an extended period of time or for any period of time, you look at their writings, you look at their telephone calls, you look at their actions in the jail, and you make also determinations about gang membership there, don't you?
Yes.
And in this particular case, you've not been given any information about Christopher Drone Bassett doing any graffiti in the jail.
No.
You don't have any information now that he's been in custody since December 18, 2015 to present of any gang indicators while he's in jail, do you?
No, I didn't.
Okay, so despite the fact that he's been in custody almost 2 years, that would have given you access to all of that information that you could have come in here and told this jury about, wouldn't it?
Correct.
And there's nothing to tell but for the fact that the sheet that you indicate indicates he's not a gang member, right?
Not my understanding, no.
Let me show you a slide, Your Honor, may I?
Can you pray for a second? All right, folks, let's go ahead and take a break. We're going to let Mr. Judge continue his cross-examination. Do you leave numbers in chairs? Take a recess. I'll see you in a minute. All right, folks, let's take a recess. Come back at 3 o'clock. You may be seated at the state. Got a comment?
Yes, sir.
Wait a comment, Jones?
Yes, Your Honor.
Any comments, Lee? Rogers? All right, welcome back, folks. Ready to resume the cross-examination now. Investigator, if you understand, you are still on oath, sir?
Yes.
All right, Mr. Jones, you may resume.
You made some comments when you were testifying on direct relative to gang colors, and just so we start back where I was at, so I don't lose my position, you indicated that blue normally designates Crips,
Yes.
and red normally designates Bloods, correct?
Yes.
All right. And you made an observation in the video, or you made a comment, what I consider to be an aside perhaps, about sports teams.
Yes.
All right. Just because somebody wears a sports team hat does not a gang member make them, does it?
No, you have to take a totality of the circumstances.
All right. And did you notice two things? One, my client's name is Christopher Drone, last name Bassett, starts with a B.
Yes.
Would you agree with me?
Yes.
And did you also notice on the back of his hat that it had his name, Bassett, on it?
Yes.
Okay. So that hat does not a blood member make, does it?
No, like I said, you have to take the totality of the circumstances.
All right. That being said, Your Honor, if I could have the projector. Please, sir. Sorry. Do I have it?
You do. Are you ready?
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't want to.
Is that what you want to present?
No. I really wasn't. I didn't have it on. I swear it's not the slide I got.
You ready?
Well,
The projector's off.
I know. Are y'all ready for me to put put it on.
I hope that's the right thing.
If it's a picture of me, I'm gonna be upset.
Oh, there we go.
All right, license.
Have you ever seen that photograph?
Yeah.
All right. And that photograph is actually contained on one of the album covers of these young men, isn't it?
Yes.
And in fact, in the video that we listened to, and I think we've heard it maybe a couple of times with you in here, I know that the jury's heard it multiple times, and it talks about it being produced by Kings and Pharaohs, correct?
Yeah, that's
All
what.
right, and then there's like, I don't know, gold stuff runs down the screen and does that. And that is the, if you will, album cover of the album, right?
Yes.
Okay. And in this album, you will agree with me, we have men wearing blue, we got men wearing red, we got men wearing blue. We've got a smattering of colors there, right?
Yes.
Okay. So on the actual cover of the 00 album, we've got blues and reds.
Yes.
Okay. And that in and of itself doesn't make them any more Bloods than Crips, does it?
No, you got to take everything into consideration.
And the Kings and Pharaohs, have you done any investigation about who that is?
No.
All right. Wouldn't surprise you that that's the production company that actually filmed the video, would it?
What I understand is the label.
Okay.
The facts not in evidence.
It's cross-examination, and he's an expert.
But the question is does he have personal knowledge?
Do you have personal knowledge?
No.
Other than seeing it up on the screen at the beginning of the video, correct? And relative to the types of information that you've been given and that are at your disposal, do you, in your capacity as a gang investigator, have internet access?
Yes.
And utilizing that internet access, did you discover that these young men had a number of social media sites aimed at selling, transmitting, and getting their songs out?
I didn't go that deep into it now.
Okay. Well, you knew you were going to come here and testify as a gang expert about them, right?
About that specific song and graffiti. I wasn't asked to go into the delve of the rap world.
Okay. Well, what about relative to these young men? Because you're being asked questions about specific lyrics.
Yes.
Okay. So it's fair to say then you didn't examine their Twitter account?
No.
I'm talking about the music group's Twitter account, not individuals.
No.
Okay. You didn't examine their Facebook page?
No.
You didn't examine their internet marketing site for their music, did you?
No.
And in fact, at the very end of the clip that was played, I made a specific note. It said, "Purchase your tracks today."
Yes.
What does that mean?
That is, you buy the song.
All right. Tracks isn't necessarily a gang word. Tracks is a word that you understand to be utilized in the music industry, right?
Specifically for CDs, a track is a song, so you have like 16 tracks on CD.
So these young men, at least on this video, were trying to sell songs, weren't they?
Yeah, there's the ultimate outcome, yes.
All right. And there's actually a term in the rap world that's called studio gangster. isn't there?
Yes.
And the purpose of a studio gangster is that you live this altar life for the purposes of selling music, right?
Yes.
And that doesn't necessarily translate out into who you are in the real world, does it?
It can and it can't, depending on how you want to look at it.
Right, it can and it can't. And again, referring back to the information that you were provided, none of that up and through today in the parlance and requirements of the Tennessee Code Annotated has my client, Christopher Drone Bassett, listed as a gang member.
Objection asked and answered multiple times.
Do you know how many times Mr. Bassett is in any of the other videos?
No, exactly not.
And you said there were how many videos?
There were 6 that I saw that had the LEI logo.
Okay. Did you take the time to look physically inside those videos?
Not all, no, because I was only asked to look at the DA's on staff.
Only asked to look at 2, and you've only been asked in front of this jury to discuss 1.
Yes.
And you indicated about ways that someone can be declared a gang member or become a gang member. You talked about beating, right?
Yes.
Where other gang members beat them up.
Yes.
All right. And then you indicated about being family den.
Yes.
All right. If I represent you as an expert.
I object to Mr. Jones representing anything that's not in evidence.
He is an expert, Your Honor.
Sustain the form of the questions in proper, if you can rephrase your question.
Assume hypothetically as an expert qualified by His Honor to give an expert opinion in the state of Tennessee, Criminal Court for Knox County, Tennessee, Division 1. Back to the hypothetical question. Assume hypothetically, as an expert, sir, that is Christopher Bassett's parents. Does anything in their appearance?
I object to that.
He said that they can come in as a matter of family. He talks about observing folks, and I think I can ask him hypothetically.
But you're asking them to identify people. I don't think that's appropriate. You can ask them a hypothetical question, but you can't pick 2 people out of the audience and ask them that.
Did you take the time to look up who his parents were?
Me personally, no.
And that's one of the ways that you determine who a gang member is, right?
Yes.
All right. Did you go back through all of your records relative to Christopher Drone Bassett?
Yes.
And he doesn't exist there?
No.
Objection asked and answered.
Nothing further.
Anything else, No.
Just one question. If just because somebody is not on your list, does that mean they cannot commit gang crimes?
No, I mean, it's a way of getting in. Committing criminal acts is a way of getting into a gang or establishing a gang.
Thank you.
Let's see.
Mr. Walker, I asked you previously when the first time you viewed that video was, and you said a month ago?
Approximately.
But that's not true, is it, sir? Because you testified in a motion hearing concerning this video several months ago, didn't you?
Well, several months ago.
Yeah, several months ago, we had a hearing concerning that video.
Not several months ago.
In September?
Okay, was it 3 months ago?
Okay. So when you said that you only saw this video 30 days ago, that wasn't true, was it?
Yeah, that's what I couldn't remember. I thought it was a month ago.
Okay, but that's not what you answered.
Okay, it's not what I answered.
Okay.
He said it was September on the paperwork.
Anything else, Mr. Rogers? Yes, sir. Mr. Jones?
No, Your Honor, other than I'll need to make the screenshot a late filed exhibit, which I asked him to identify, and I believe in my order that would be exhibit number 601. Yes, Your Honor. Do you want me to put it up there and you just
Put it up, I'll
print it?
and I'll do it.
Yes, sir, please. Give me a minute. There's something else up there right this minute. I don't-
Oh, yeah, you said that when you're ready.
Yes, sir. I believe we're ready. Thank you, sir.
All right, Charlie, you can step down. What the exact number was that, folks?
601?
601, Your Honor, I believe. Thank you, Your Honor.
No, you're all done. Thanks, have a good day. Yes, sir. All right, John, you can call your next one.
Said, before we do that, exhibit 591 was the additional copy of the video. Yes, the one he did.
Here you go, Mr. Jones.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Mr. Fitzgerald.
You need to check the image.
No, Your Honor. Did you print?
Oh, I gotta turn
I
there.
got to move it here.
Sorry.
Just leave it alone.
Gotta get the transcripts.
Oh, yeah, the transcript.
Yeah, folks, if you pass your transcripts in, I'll code what that is. All right, John, go ahead and play your next one.
Jacob Wilson.
I apologize, General. What was the name Mr. Tanner was speaking to?
Jacob Wilson.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no problem.
All right, sir, if you please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in the case now on trial will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. That's the officer.
Give us your name, please, sir.
I'm Officer Jacob Wilson.
Knoxville Police Department.
Yes, sir.
How long have you been so employed?
Since January 2011.
Were you so employed back on April 1st going into April 2nd of 2016?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'll ask you if you responded to a call near where you were at the time.
Yes, sir.
Tell us where you were.
At the time that I was called,
Yes.
I was on a traffic stop at North 17th Street in Dell Avenue.
And I'll ask you if you had occasion to go to 947 Hill Avenue on that day.
I did
Okay.
in that area.
On a shooting call, do you remember?
I'm sorry.
And you're here about two different times.
Oh, okay. Yes, sir. I did go to 947. I was at the police department on that occasion. I'm sorry.
I apologize.
No.
And tell us about the shooting call that you responded to on April 2nd.
I was at the back door of the safety building at the police department doing paperwork, and I had my windows cracked, and I heard several gunshots coming from the Townview Towers area.
And how close is Townview Towers area to where you were?
It's right across the street.
What'd you do when you got that call?
I drove to Townview Towers.
What'd you find when you got there?
When I got out of the car, I parked at the back entrance to the Vistas, which is another apartment complex that surrounds Townview Towers. I walked up the back staircase to the top where Townview Towers is, and found a victim shot several times laying on the ground.
Did you later learn the identity of that person?
Yes, sir.
Probably was.
Larry North.
In fact, have you take a look at
This aerial photograph, is that the area we're talking about?
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna prop it up here so everybody sees it there. If you would, you take a black marker and pass it back. First point to the area, if you would draw a mark on there where you found Larry North when you arrived.
This here's the Knoxville Police Department. I was part of the back lot of the Knoxville Police Department at the time. Back about right here in this area is where the top of the steps were that Larry North was found.
What did you observe about that person that you found? How was he? Lying, standing, sitting?
He was lying on the ground.
Okay. And did you observe any injuries about him?
I couldn't tell where his injuries were. I just know that he was shot multiple times. He said that he'd been shot.
Is he still conscious?
He was, yes, sir.
So what all did you do there at that scene?
There were already other officers that were there. I tried to speak with some people that live in the area to see if they had heard or saw anything, and then once we didn't develop much from any of the witnesses that started circulating in the area, we did have one person that wouldn't provide a name that told us that they thought they saw a dark colored sedan leaving the area. So I just left and started circulating for that vehicle that matched that description.
And were you able to locate any vehicle or persons that were otherwise connected to that shooting at that time?
No, sir, not that night.
And did you file a report in after that, based on what you did?
I did not file a report. I'm not sure who did the original offense report for that.
Were you the only officer that responded to that shooting?
No, sir.
Other officers?
Yes, sir.
Now, a couple of days later, 3 days later, April 4th of 2016, did you have occasion to be involved in a pursuit, a vehicle pursuit?
Yes, sir, I did.
Tell us how that came to be.
This is where I had a vehicle stopped at North 17th Street in Dale Avenue. There was one of our organized crime officers had advised on the radio that they had observed defendant Kifman Bolbert getting into the back seat of a green, I believe it was a Honda Civic or a Honda Accord that was parked on Badger Drive near California inside Lonsdale Homes, and they were asking for a marked unit to come try to stop the vehicle.
If I can find Lonsdale Homes. First of all, it moved in to 593.
Any objection?
No, you're good.
593.
And if you can sit down and see if you can locate the area where you were involved in the stop. Yeah, if you kind of circle where you were on the stop and say you're on another spot.
I was on another traffic stop at the time, which it's not on the map. It was at North 17th.
I apologize. You said something about California.
But this appears to be a map of Lonsdale Homes, and at the time they advised that they watched Mr. Colbert get into the backseat of the vehicle at about this location, this area, Badger Drive, California Road.
Badger, California.
Yes, sir. By the time that I got to them, they'd already gotten on the interstate.
Okay, but that's where the call came to, or directing someone towards it?
Yes, sir.
And how close is that, 2704 Badger Drive?
It's down the street, same road.
So you got that call, what did you do?
I drove to the area of Lonsdale Homes, and I just told them to keep me advised. I was coming from ways off, and they kept me updated when the vehicle started to move to this location so I could get behind it.
Okay. Are you able to locate the vehicle that you had information on?
Yes, sir.
After you did that, what'd you do?
After I got behind it on 275 South, I followed it for a little bit after they got on from High School Avenue until another marked unit got behind me, so there was two of us. And I turned the blue lights on to stop the vehicle as the vehicle passed 275 South and West Baxter Avenue.
And did you have any information about the number of people in that vehicle?
I did not. I just knew that he was he was supposed to be the back right passenger, I believe, or the rear passenger side of the vehicle is what they had indicated at the time. But I couldn't see through the back windshield. It was pretty dark. The windows were pretty dark. I couldn't tell.
But you had that specific name at that time?
Yes, sir.
Now, was your cruiser equipped with audio-video recording equipment?
Yes, sir, it was.
And did it capture the events you've told us about so far?
Yes, sir.
And the events that followed?
Yes, sir.
If we could play starting at 8:03:23, 8:03 p.m. and 23 seconds. And before I hit play, what are we looking at there?
This was the traffic stop that I was on, unrelated to this incident on North 17th Street, Dale Avenue.
17th and Dale?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yes. I'm going to start the play. Pause. What street are you turning on to there?
I'm turning on to Texas Avenue from Western Avenue.
And where does Texas going that direction lead to?
Boston Homes.
Now, pause it just a minute. Is there another police vehicle with you or in front of you or behind you?
Another marked police car.
Either one, marked or unmarked?
There's some unmarked that are on the street right now, and then behind me, I don't think at this point that Officer Williams was behind me yet, but he does end up coming behind.
stopped there, for the record would show, we stopped at 2016 and 27 seconds. Move exhibit 468.
Yes, sir.
No, you're,
What number did you say?
468. Now, Officer Wilson, give us an idea, and some of the places may be recognizable, but give us an idea of the parts of town that this started in and ended in.
Well, I guess that initially where we saw them at started in Lawrenceville Homes, or where the undercover officers observed them at was in Lawrenceville Homes. And then, I guess the part where I got behind them was still in the Lawrenceville community. They were turning on to 275 South from High School Avenue. When we started the traffic stop, it was on 275 South, just past Baxter. Of course, it didn't stop. They continued through downtown Knoxville. They took the Western Avenue exit, went through downtown Knoxville on Summit Hill. They actually struck a vehicle. They were trying to maneuver between the vehicles there at the intersection of West Summit Hill and South Central Street. Or you could see them turn on South Central Street. They struck a vehicle there and kept going. And then they turned on the Willow, and then they passed underneath the interstate to the Old City, and then ultimately ended up in East Knoxville in the Morningside community. I believe it was Witt Place, is where they actually stopped and got out of the vehicle and fled on foot.
Let me approach with another diagram, see if it contains the area where it stopped off with. Is that, you sat down, see if it's on this map.
You're asking where
Where you finally came to a stop at?
Yes, sir.
Whatever it was.
Yes, sir, in the Morningside Park area.
And there's a specific, can you mark on there where the cars came to a stop, including your own? Or is it on there?
It is, sir. It was up here on Witt Place.
Okay. If you would
Actually, I believe it was right up here where these streets are.
okay, just barely inside this.
Yes, sir.
You kind of mark there with an X or so, that's fine, circle's fine. And that's where both cars, well, and multiple cars
Yes, sir.
came to a stop, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Now, when that cars came to a stop and we saw individuals coming out of that car, were you able to recognize any of those individuals?
Not at the time, no. We were told by the officers that initially observed the subjects getting in the vehicle that the back passenger of the vehicle wearing a white t-shirt would be Kipling Colbert.
Okay. Was that person able to be caught at that time?
Yes, sir, he was.
Okay. Did you pursue on foot
I did, sir.
somebody else?
I did. I caught the one that was wearing a white t-shirt, like they described.
Let me ask you this.
Yes, sir.
Did you learn the name of anybody that was stopped at that time?
Once we caught him, yes, sir.
Okay. And you recall what the names of, what, sorry, let me ask you, how many got away and how many stopped right there, you know?
Two of them were captured at the scene.
Okay.
One of them was not captured at the scene, and then shortly thereafter turned themselves in at the police department almost across the street.
Does the name Darryl Slide ring a bell with
Yes,
you?
sir, it does.
And how does that ring a bell with you?
He's the individual that was in the back right passenger side of the vehicle wearing the white t-shirt that I apprehended.
Okay, so that's one you apprehended?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And who apprehended the other individual?
I believe Officer Jacob Shetler apprehended Defendant Richard Williams.
Okay.
And then Defendant Kipling Colbert was not captured at the time and actually arrived at the safety building maybe, I don't know, 45 minutes later.
Okay.
Turned himself in.
That's what I want to clear. I
Yes,
want to clear up the names of the individuals that were actually caught there.
Yes, sir.
And how far into the park area was it that you had to run in order to capture Mr. Slide? Approximately.
On the map?
You can if you know, if you're available.
I don't know the name of the street we go. We crossed the street.
About to say, just the approximate area where you're taking in.
So this is where the vehicle pursuit terminated and they fled on foot. And this pavilion right here, we ran through the park, we crossed, Hayden Street. We ended up, the high school right there.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you remember anything being recovered in that area after this chase was over?
Yes, sir. Immediately after we took Daryl Slaw and Richard Williams into custody, they were seen tossing items as we're running. One of them you can see, I believe it is Mr. Slaw at the end of pursuit as he's getting out of the car. You can see him juggling an item coming from his waist area that turned out to be a cell phone. I believe there was one or two more cell phones that were located in the park, and then a Ruger LCR, I believe, 357 Magnum revolver was also recovered.
Now, did you see that in its location before it was retrieved at the time? Do you remember?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, bad question. Did you see that gun that you told us about actually laying in the ground?
Yes.
In the park before somebody picked it up and,
yes, sir.
and took it into their possession? What about bullets or anything else? Do you recall anything?
The firearm was loaded. They're talking about like spare bullets or
okay.
Not at the time. The only thing that I'm aware of at that time on that day that we recovered was were cell phones that were discarded inside the park area, and then like I said, the Ruger 357 Magnum revolver that was loaded. I believe it had 5 rounds in it.
And I apologize. At the time of the foot chase, that we stopped the video at 16 minutes after 8. Was it daylight, dark, in between?
It was starting to get dark. I mean, by the time of the pursuit ended, it was well at dusk. I'm sure it was past sundown. And then with the canopy of the trees inside the park, it was pretty dark on the ground at that point.
Did y'all stay there for some period of time to process whatever you could process?
Yes, sir, we did.
Ashley?
So after the 3 bailed out of the car, you chased Mr. Sly?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And did everyone run in the same direction? Or?
Generally, yes, but once they got into the park, no, sir. They split up.
Okay. And you said you recovered cell phones in the park that night?
There were cell phones recovered, yes, sir.
And a gun?
Yes, sir.
Is that correct? And that gun, was that gun in the path of Mr. Sly?
No, sir, it was not.
Okay, where was the gun that you located? Can you show me on the map? Yeah, that'd be great.
Yes.
Can you show me where, about the path to the show me the path to the ran? Okay, yes. Is it okay with them? You're fine. So the path that Mr. Sly and I took was approximately in this direction. Or it might have been further up here. I know there's like a walkway that's right here, I guess like a walking path. And at some point we were on that path. I remember we were on pavement at that point. Mr. Colbert ran in this direction, and so did Mr. Williams. Once they passed by my line side, I stayed with Mr. Sly so I could see exactly what they went after that. can you show me where you found that gun?
The firearm, sir, was recovered in this area. It was somewhere near, I know, and I want to say for sure, it was in almost near the tree line, sort of this area. There's like a hill, like a small hill that goes up this way. It was found in this general area that I remember you can see, I think this is a brick house, if I'm not mistaken. You can see that from the bottom of through the trees.
And you didn't see anyone throw that gun?
I didn't see the gun specifically. I saw all of them thrown items, I mean, they're empty, they're locked up.
And that's the gun that you found that night?
It is, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Did crime scene come out to take pictures of that gun and where it was found?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And do you know if they took fingerprints or did DNA swabs on that gun?
I'm not sure, sir.
Okay. You did not apprehend Mr. Williams that night?
No, sir, I did not.
And you did not see Mr. Williams throw anything that night, did you?
Not that I can remember, no, sir.
Okay, that's all I have to.
Just to reinforce the date, what was the date of this event?
I believe it was April the 4th, if I'm not mistaken.
Of 2016?
2016, yes, sir.
Nothing further. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Just a moment.
Officer Wilson, do you know who was driving that car?
It turned out being Mr. Williams. I didn't know at the time.
And did you see Mr. Colbert throw anything?
Not that I recall specifically. Like I said, all three of them were tossing ended up obviously being cell phones. I know one of them, I believe it was Mr. Sly at the vehicle, discarded the cell phone there, and then they were all pulling stuff out of their pockets, but I didn't see if there was anything specific. Once we made it into the park, I stayed with Mr. Sly until we caught him.
And do you know whose gun that was?
I don't. No, ma'am.
Okay. And Mr. Colbert turned himself in?
He did. It was probably 45 minutes later, I believe. I had just arrived at the police department with Mr. Sly in the back of my car, and Mr. Williams was in the back of someone else's car, and he had, I think, apparently turned himself into the front door of the safety building.
So he walked in the safety building and turned himself in?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
That's all I have.
Okay, right. Ron, anything else? No. Anything else?
No,
All right, folks, the treasurer's report.
Good 468, is that?
No objection to that, Your Honor.
Yeah, I've already got that. Folks, thank you, Officer.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Folks, we got one more witness. We think again today it shouldn't be too long. Is everybody okay? Can you stick with me another 30 minutes or so? All right, very good. Jump to your turn next.
Shetland?
Please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony about to give in the case now on trial will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. I do have to, Officer.
Give us your name, please.
My name is Jacob Shetler.
Can you spell your last name, please?
It's Schettler.
And by whom are you employed?
Knoxville Police Department.
How long have you been so employed?
Since January of 2014.
Back in April of 2016, were you so employed?
Yes, sir.
On April 4th, 2016, I'll ask you if you had occasion to assist other officers, specifically Jacob Wilson, in a vehicle pursuit.
That's correct.
Tell us what you did in that pursuit.
I was I believe I was the third car in that pursuit. I just backed him up while he was following the vehicle. Whenever
the defendants bailed out of the vehicle. We all proceeded on foot.
Were you there when the vehicle finally came to a stop?
I was.
And individuals got out and ran?
Yes.
And what did you do when you saw that?
Whenever they stopped and bailed out of the vehicle, we got out of our vehicles and pursued them on foot into Morningside Park.
Did you pursue a certain individual?
I did.
And were you able to capture that individual?
I was.
And who was that you were able to capture?
Richard Williams.
And approximately where were you when you were able to catch up to him?
We had stopped on Witt Place in the vehicles. They ran down into Morningside Park. Mr. Williams ran along the wood line, probably about 100 yards. I lost sight of him for a brief moment around a storage building, and was able to locate him in the woods.
And were you able to take him into custody?
Yes, sir.
As part of doing that, did you perform a pat-down search or other search of his person?
Yes, sir.
And did you find any items that were of significance to you?
Yes, sir.
What were they?
I found a red bandana in his front right pants pocket. In that bandana, there were 8 or 9 9mm rounds.
I'm going to approach with Mark 592. And I asked you to exactly then see what's been broken from before. Can you recognize that envelope? Tell us how you recognize it if you can.
Yes, sir. This is my handwriting. This is the envelope that I submitted this evidence into at the safety building.
And did you write on there what the contents of that envelope were?
I did.
What did you write?
On here on the details, I wrote bullets found wrapped in bandana, suspect's person.
You pull those out and show us the items you took off this week.
This is the red bandana that I got out of his pants pocket. Within that bandana, there were looks like 8 9mm rounds.
And are you able to tell the brand of the 9mm rounds?
They're Winchester.
And where were those bullets?
They were wrapped up in the bandana in the defendant's pants pocket.
When was the bandana rolled up approximately the way it is now? Or has it been folded before?
I can't really recall.
But any of the bullets were inside that somehow?
Yes, sir.
What did you do with those items?
After I removed them off his person, obviously I just submitted them for evidence, sealed them, and they had been with property since the last time I was here. That would be on the
Okay. And turned in for somebody else to examine later, perhaps?
Yes, sir.
Now, after you had that encounter with Mr. Williams, was he placed under arrest?
He was.
And did you transport him further to wherever?
Yes, sir. We just transported to the safety building.
And was your cruiser equipped with audio, video recording equipment?
It is.
Specifically audio equipment as it relates to any statements made by Mr. Williams?
Yes, sir.
That'd be while he was in the back of your cruiser?
That's correct.
And if we could get that called up, I'd like to play this portion.
Are you seeking to move 592?
I am, Judge. I apologize.
Right.
592.
It's not working. Do you remember the approximate time was it that you put him in your cruiser and
I believe the vehicle pursuit was initiated around 8 o'clock that evening. It was probably maybe 30 minutes after that.
when you put Mr. Williams into your cruiser, did you try to get information about him? Did you know who he was at the time?
When I initially contacted him in the woods after the foot pursuit, I asked him his name after I got him into custody. He gave me the name of Riley Rose and a fake birthday. It wasn't until later we had him up in the back of my cruiser that his father was actually on scene and possibly identified him and gave him that information. But my preliminary, just speaking with him, I didn't really question him about anything related to that.
How many times did he give you the name of Riley Rose as his identity?
Maybe once or twice. I can't recall any more than that.
And you said he gave a different date of birth than what you later found out to be his date of birth?
Yes, sir. I can't remember what the date of birth was, but it wasn't his date of birth either.
When he gave you that name of Riley Rose, did that any red flags go up?
Yes.
Why?
It's just from talking with people, you can kind of tell when people are kind of telling you the truth or not. I don't know. It's kind of roll off his tongue pretty quick, and like you kind of rehearse it.
And did you ask him about the individual that ran, the other individual that ran it was not caught?
I don't believe I did.
Pass witness.
All right, cross-examination would be Mr. Jones.
What was the date? The events that Mr. Morton asked you about, the
It
dates, sir?
was April the 4th, 2016.
No further questions. Thank you, sir.
Ms. Lee.
No questions, Your Honor.
Right.
So you said that you had Mr. Williams in your sight as you were chasing him through Morningside Park, except for a really short period of time around a storage building, is that correct?
Yes, sir. The path that I took was a little bit different from Officer Wilson. Where we had a vehicle stopped, there were 3 houses to the left of us in the Morningside Park. Officer Wilson ran around the front of the first house. I ran around the back side. So the initial, after they got out of their cars, I didn't have sight on, but as running into the park, I had sight on them again.
Okay. And you didn't see him toss a gun?
I did not.
Okay. And there was an extensive search of that park after this chase, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Were you present for that search?
I was.
Okay. Did they bring dogs out?
They did.
Okay. And other than the gun that, I believe it was a Ruger that was found that evening, no other gun was found that evening, is that right?
Not that evening, no.
I think that's all I have, Judge.
You right?
No.
Anything else, Mr. Jones?
No, you're, oh, well.
Yeah, you're right, Mr. Jones. Ms. Lee.
No, Your Honor.
I was just getting my note.
All right, I'll use that down. You're free to go. All right, folks, the next witness would probably take us past 5 since it's Friday. Y'all worked really hard this week. It'd be a good time to go ahead and have an extra hour. So we're going to adjourn for the week. I appreciate all of the work that you have done this week. I'm going to send you home with the same instructions I've sent you every other night, with just some extra caution. You know, you're going to be out there for 2 days, and I'm sure some of y'all may want to watch sporting events and football and all that stuff. That's absolutely fine. Just know that when you're watching local channels, sometimes, even on the weekends, they will do a blurb about something, say, you know, coming up on the news and talk about a case. If you see something like that, stop immediately what it is you're watching. Listen, try to avoid that stuff as much as you really possibly can. Be aware of social media stuff. People put stuff out there, people may be harsh about it. That's advice to avoid it completely. When you come in here Monday, I will ask you that question once again. Were you exposed to anything at all about this case? Everybody talk to me about it. And if there was, you just have to tell me, and then we'll talk about it further to see what it was. But if something were to happen, just stop immediately. Listening, watching, or reading that. Don't talk to anybody about this case. I know you're probably ready to start talking about it, but you haven't heard all the proof yet. And it's very important that you wait to not only make up your minds before you say anything to anybody at all, even your loved ones. I don't want you talking to anybody about this case. So Monday, we'll jump right into this at 9 o'clock. So be here about 10 till about 8:50 a.m. on Monday morning. and we'll resume the state crew. I didn't want you to take notebooks with you. We're going to keep them locked up. I'll see you Monday, folks. Have a great weekend. All right, Coach MC.
They still be here.
All right, any issues from the state?
No, sir. No, sir.
Any issues from Mr. Jones?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Lee? Mr. Rogers? Yes, sir. Good work, everybody. Y'all worked hard this week. Appreciate everything you've all done. Each defendant's been represented well as the state. Keep it up. I'll work on the instructions this week and try to get you sort of a bare bones draft on Monday, and we'll have plenty of opportunity to do it and talk about it.
May I ask? Go ahead. I've got an electronics question, but after you're done.
Do you want to do it off the record? Or?
Yeah, it's not, it
Okay.
doesn't need to be.
All right, court's adjourned until 9 o'clock Monday morning.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I'm taking my last copy.
All right, Coach MC.
They still be here.
All right, any issues from the state?
No, sir. No, sir.
Any issues from Mr. Jones?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Lee? Mr. Rogers? Yes, sir. Good work, everybody. Y'all worked hard this week. Appreciate everything you've all done. Each defendant's been represented well as the state. Keep it up. I'll work on the instructions this week and try to get you sort of a bare bones draft on Monday, and we'll have plenty of opportunity to do it and talk about it.
May I ask? Go ahead. I've got an electronics question, but after you're done.
Do you want to do it off the record? Or?
Yeah, it's not, it
Okay.
doesn't need to be.
All right, court's adjourned until 9 o'clock Monday morning.
Thank you, Your Honor.